welcome back to yet another interesting session of IIDA Summit initiated by Architects Diary, sponsored by Incelpro and Bromic Heating. And the beautiful venue is designed by Manticore Designs. So the next speaker, as I said, is architect Darshan Soni, who's an ardent lover of art and craftsmanship. He is a director and co-founder of Bespoke Designs and Art Studio, Apical Reform, a studio that is redefining the meaning of art in India. The philosophy behind the Apical Reform Studio lies in its ability to create unique concepts of kinetic and functional art that portrays high quality craftsmanship and finish, making strong mark globally. Since its inception in 2011, Apical Reform has been evolving and gaining momentum under the design director and co-founder, architect Darshan Soni. So we welcome you, Mr. Darshan. Yeah, welcome to the show, and we hope to have an insightful conversation and a session with you ahead. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for having me here. It's great to share our work and what we do with so many people. Uh, so I'll give you a basic. She has already spoken about our studio. Uh, I'll just give a quick brief about myself and the studio. So basically, I'm an architect. I studied from CEPT Ahmedabad. Um, we found this studio in 2011. Amrish Patel, he is my partner. So both of us, we met through a common friend, and we found a spark towards the design and the passion towards it. So we decided to open this studio. After years of experience in design in various fields, we have found our very deepest interest in work of art. So the way we have figured out our methodology and the niche in this market, it's kind of overlap between design and art. So today I'm going to talk about that process of design, how we kind of approach the design and art, and how it is falling between the design and art. A lot of our work, you can say, at the threshold of design and art. So the definition of art is also changing along with time and technology. Hence, our work is also kind of lying between the design and art. So I'm going to take you through a basic understanding of design process that we have, and how design process is so important for designer, or even for the artist, or for that matter, any creative field. So, and then I'm going to share a couple of our works that kind of talks about it. I'm going to take one example, and I'll take you through our design process, and then I'll share the final some of the work that we have. So I'm going to share the screen, and I'll start the presentation. All right, so I'll go ahead. Yeah. So the topic I'm going to focus is at the threshold of design and art, journey of design process, focusing on through our work. So as I'm going to go through a quick introduction, that's Amrish Patel. He's the creative director and the design director. Both of us, we found this company in 2011. That is our design studio. That's where we work. It's in Ahmedabad. This entire building is designed by us. That's a glimpse of the interior of the studio. On the left side, you see all the cubicles where we sit and design, and that is receiving the beautiful diffuse north light. On the right side is a large space. That's where we exhibit a lot of our work. That's a glimpse of the workshop. That's where the making happens, because all the process goes through rigorous making it with hands-on experience. So core focus of our studio is kinetic art, bespoke art, and functional art. So kinetic art As you all know, it's art which has a motion. Bespoke art is, most of the cases, it is more concentrated towards the requirement, a program or a space specifically designed for clients. And the functional art is basically the overlap between art and design. That's where it's a beautified object with a function to it. So how do we kind of define what is design and what is art? So I've tried to put down just a bullet points where design is mostly the solution driven, where art is more experience driven. The design solves a problem where art evokes emotions. The design is a conclusive result where art is open for interpretation. Design translates the program in a more meaningful way, where art kind of writes a story of its own. Design is dependent on a collective acceptance, where art is independent and needs inner approval of the artist. Um, Design, the mind is looking for solution, when art is kind of voice of the soul. Design is an act of need or requirement, where art is an act of freedom. So how do we create these creative substances or design and art? So if I try to break it down in a basic kind of categories, it may be a linear process, it may be a non-linear process. It depends on the artist or designer. But in an abstract way, there is a program or an intent. Then there is a study or research what goes into understanding the program. Then there is exploration and try to express it through the understanding, and eventually you create something. So that is the basics of the creative process. Why do we need a creative process? It's basically to have a deeper understanding of the intent, to achieve an appropriate direction of the design or art, and to have a meaningful results. If you have a, like, each artist or designer would have their own design process. So this presentation is not about putting a methodology or a way of doing things. There is no standard for it. It's your own exploration. So, but I'm questioning why it is required, and this is our understanding of what a design process does. So, if we look at Sir Tadao Ando's work, you would see a lot of layers of exploration. You can see models, you can see sketches, like shown in the presentation. You would see free sketches. You would see a use of computer and multiplying in different layers to see how the juxtaposition happens. The axonometric study model. So there is so much goes into kind of conceive a space and then eventually create it. If you see Sir Leonardo da Vinci's sketches, you will see this his diary is full of ideas, trying to communicate with himself through the sketches and text. You can see how the flow happens. So these are some of, I just took two masters example to kind of see how the design process varies from artist to artist and person to person. So now we are looking at our ways of working, how we look at our design process. So it's basically first stage is the inspiration. That's where we talk about the inspiration has to be a spark, as in that's where you kind of conceive the idea and inspiration, where you don't think about how it is going to be made, etc. But it's about that experience that you want to create, and you have to be excited for it. Then talking about translation, that goes beyond drawings. Third stage is tools, where we are talking about mediums and methods of achieve translation making into another language. Fourth is the core values. That's where the USP of the studio is lying, and that's where we try to achieve in all our works. And eventually the work itself, the experience what you are creating. So I'm going to take you through these stages, taking only one example of our work, which is most exciting. And similarly, we carry out different these kind of processes for all our artworks. So we were in Dubai, the Dubai Mall. There's an aquarium there. So that time we had a chance to have a close look at this stingray fish. I've seen stingray fish before, but not like this. So when we were there, we were kind of completely mesmerized by the motion of this creature. I'm going to just play the video. I hope you will be able to see it. Then I'll go to the next slide. So what we had experienced was a mesmerizing experience, smooth motion, stunning aesthetics, and it was completely silent. So these were the key feature that we experienced there, and we wanted to kind of explore these into an artwork. So that's where the spark happened. So our first stage, when we get inspired, it was more of a fire rather than a spark. That's where you feel the energy of creating something. So at the first stage, we are talking about the translation beyond drawing. So first effort is to understand how it moves, what are the criteria, what are the parameters, how the structure is done of a stingray. You can see on the screen that we did a in-depth research. These are just glimpses, but we had done a lot of research about the motion. Then we started exploring the form into so many sketches. There are 3D models, there are drawings, and there are animations. So in this first stage, we tried to kind of explore the form and the concept itself. So after this stage of translation, our observation were that we had in-depth understanding of the subject that we were approaching. We had a conceptual clarity of the form, and we had conceptual clarity of the motion. So after the in-depth research, we had these understanding. These are the outcome of the first stage that we take ahead, and then we go on to the second stage. That's where we talk about the mediums and the methods. So we started exploring. This is a parametric thinking is one of our biggest tool that we translate our ideas from. So rather than the software, I would say it's more important how the thinking is developed, how the parametric thinking is developed. So rhinoceros and grasshopper, based on that, we created this entire definition. That's where we kind of get different parameters. We created these parameters of different distances, the lengths and the heights and the size of the mechanism, etc. That will give us the result of how the motion is. So through this medium, we kind of experimented a lot of motion, and we figured out the most appropriate proportion and the motion through this medium. Then there are a lot of study models that goes into understanding the motion. First, we have to understand the principle of the motion. So we created more than, I think, 40 models to understand the motion. This stingray has, I think, 1335 moving parts in the entire assembly. You see a lot of models where we study how it is moving, the proportions, the distances. Also, along with that, the forms, conceptual understanding of the head and tail forms. Then also we approached, whenever we make the models, those models are in detail. There is each and every nut bolt is shown, so you have complete understanding of the entire system. And also at the end of it, we carry out study of aesthetics. After creating all the details, everything, we study how, what kind of material, what kind of finishes are more appropriate for the work. And this we work in the workshop to kind of achieve some of them. So our observation after the stage of tools, resolution of details, we have selections of forms, resolutions of mechanism, and resolution of construction methods. This is what our understanding was at the end of the stage of tools. Then the stage of core values come. That's where our more focus is on the precision and quality of the work. So in India especially, it's very difficult to kind of find the craftsmanship that we seek for. Uh, since there is no demand, people are okay with mediocre quality work. So there is no demand, and hence people are not providing it. It's not that people are not capable of it, but there is no demand. Hence, it was a little difficult to kind of achieve that. But somehow we have managed to find people who are more excited to have the same values that we have. So precision, where there are a lot of parts, and we thrive for accuracy in manufacturing and also in assembly, and the eventually quality of the work. So you can see how the aesthetic have been turned out. I'm going to play video. You'll be able to. Now I'm going to share. So that was a complete process of creating Stingray in a more concise manner. It took more than a year to achieve this result. It was constant effort of creating something which is a mesmerizing experience, and it also has a great craftsmanship. I'm going to share just glimpses of other works that we do. So talking about functional art, I'm sorry for the error in spelling. Um, Functional art. So when we do interior design or architecture, a lot of our elements that we design, it also explore the area of art. The staircase is a space in transition. So we kind of take an opportunity and design something which is uh, overlap between the art and design. So the functional art, this is the staircase we had done in Ahmedabad. Staircase is something we really enjoy doing, and we have designed like, say around more than 7 to 8 different staircases. They are unique in their own way. This was done in 2011. This is made out of only 5 mm mild steel plate. This is the staircase in our studio. This is a new staircase that we have done. There is a villa that we are designing that is around 30,000 square feet. This is the staircase in that villa. Other works in functional art. There's on the right hand side the Betula chair made out of birch ply. Then there is a sculpture which can be turned into a light. And there is on the left it's Terra, that's inspired from the form of Earth. This installation is in Dubai. It's called Maya Dubai. It's an interactive installation. People can lean on it, sit on it, and the form kind of is ready to receive this interaction. You can see the scale there. This one is Sonus Lexica. So this one has an interesting story behind it. So basically, we launched this in Dubai as an art installation during one of the show. So we took the metaphor of iceberg, where we are talking about you can only see the tip of the iceberg, and you don't know what is underneath. When in most of the cases, 8 or 10 times more volume underwater, which you don't see. So we took this metaphor for the success of the Dubai city, and we figured out that it's a multicultural place where people from all over the world come to Dubai to work. So we floated online campaign where we asked people to uh, record their voice and speak these 3 words: peace, growth, and harmony, which is representing Dubai's quality. And people from all over the world who are staying resident of Dubai, they spoke these 3 words in their own language. And then we took that sound wave and we converted that sound wave into a visual form. So the foundation of the iceberg we created with voice of people. On the top, it's an abstract of the skyline of Dubai, having the water and the desert are toward the edge, and the center is kind of in abstract manner shown as skyline in the wave format. And at the bottom, we took this 4 feet diameter disc. We put the desert sand into it and kind of symbolizes the origin of Dubai city. The king Maktoum himself came to visit. This is another art installation that we collaborated with Swarovski. So that there is this big crystal around, I think, 3 inches high, and we took 800 Swarovski crystals and we suspended this art installation. It is basically, there was a show that we had organized. It was called State of Earth, and this installation is actually talking about the global warming. So the one half, which is kind of representing the earth after industrial revolution, how the machines and mining and factories uh, have been working, and kind of showcasing the other half as Swarovski crystals as a pure form of the iceberg. And it's kind of just questioning that we still have time to save our nature. Then talking about kinetic art, we have tornado, which is inspired from the form of tornado. It's actually a very ironic where the tornado in reality is kind of scary, where this one is kind of more calming. So then there is another artwork that we are working on. It's called Moa. Other kinetic artwork that we are working is called Dream plus Reality. So this is again talking about that fraction of second, the experience that you sometimes wake up and you cannot figure out if you're still dreaming or you're in a reality. So we work with an image where you can see that image, you can recognize it's a photograph of the trees in the forest. and suddenly the portion of these images will start disorienting itself, and it will you one will not be able to completely figure out what it is, but at back of the mind you have understanding of the image somewhere. So it's kind of this dilemma of not knowing what it is and still knowing what it is. We're talking about that threshold in this artwork, where on the left you can see the complete image, on the right you see a glimpse of something, a mirage or reflection kind of thing. So yeah, so these are the kind of work that we do. That's the end of the presentation. So when we are talking about art in space, we do also interior design project and architectural project. Those are very selective throughout the year. But whenever we talk about space and also art, it plays a very important role. The art can evoke emotion. It can kind of change the perspective of people. So it's very important how we place an artwork in the interior spaces and outdoor spaces, and similarly how art can be seen, because a lot of time what we have observed is people may not relate to the artwork that a designer has kept. So somewhere we need overlap between the client and the art. That's where people can relate to the art hanging in their halls and spaces. So I see a very huge potential in exploring this overlap, and that's where we are working currently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Darshan.
Just 1 second.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Can,
needed to show a couple of videos at the end, so I'll just share them right now. So that will be the end of
yes, please.
presentation. Yeah. Yeah, those are some of them. Yeah, that ends the
Yeah,
tool.
that was a wonderful session by, yeah. So it was a wonderful session by Architect Darshan. We got to know many new things, especially loved the My Dubai sitting thing. I think that is there in Baroda also, the similar kind of My Baroda karke, if I'm not wrong.
I don't know. Basically, it started long back. I love NY and this is Amsterdam. So those kind of basic uh, typographic sculptures are there. But what we have done is much broader than that. It receives people. It's more fluidic. It has a different technology. It's a different form altogether.
Yeah, it is a different form, but there is like this typography thing where you can sit, of course, with different material and different techniques. But I loved that, and other one was the with the Dubai skyline and the sand below and everything. That was also a wonderful thing. Okay, Mr. Darshan, we have few questions from our audience, which I would like to ask. If you can answer. Yeah. The first one is what is the future of parametric design in the upcoming years?
Parametric design has been going on conceptually since years, I would say. Now people have started identifying that as a niche design language, one would say. But along with parametric design, understanding the tools, I see two major parts of this process. One is parametric thinking. What computer offers or the software offers
Hmm.
is one thing. If you
Okay,
can kind of modulate your thinking, how to think in a parametric manner, that is most important. That may or may not happen with or without softwares. So even if you are doing something
correct,
with your hand, you can apply your parametric thinking. You know how you can do certain things in a most efficient way. So that is most important. Second part is making. When we talk about advanced software, then they allow us to create something very organic and challenging. But it's very important to understand that how you create this. For that, you need to have understanding of technology, how you're going to make it, understanding of material. So I think putting these two together, unless these two are not nicely balanced, you cannot make them in reality. So you can do beautiful renders and things like that, but you cannot make it. If you cannot make it, it is not going to sustain for very long.
correct,
So
correct.
I would say, as people kind of getting to know the digital fabrication now, if more and more
Hmm.
companies they kind of lean towards the digital fabrication and understanding it in a more deeper strength, I think we can have a more much better exploration of what the medium is providing. The current software and everything providing immense possibilities of creating something which is not possible since there are no manufacturer who can really understand what we are doing. So I
Hmm.
would say in near future, more people are leaning towards digital fabrication. If you also talk about 3D printing and larger scale 3D printing, etc. So all
Yeah,
that technology is still growing, but I would say it will take at least more 5 to 6 years at least to have more options for construction. When we started doing, I first did something of similar kind when I was in school. So we did uh,
okay.
art installations. I'm talking about year of 2000 or something like that when I was in
Hmm.
third year. So that parametric thinking and exploration started happening then, but we didn't have enough resources that time. The
Correct,
resources that you
correct.
have now is so many resources that
Available.
you have. So yeah, I would say more student leaning towards this design field in parametric design, and same time focusing on how to make it. Understanding, creating that understanding of material is most important.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned about the softwares that they are techniques and softwares which are available now, which were not available back then. So, as a student, what are the tools and softwares which they should learn for this parametric designs?
So there are a lot of tools, but you can start with rhinoceros and grasshopper. That is
Yeah.
very interesting. So basically, grasshopper is like providing you a dictionary, and then it
Hmm.
is depending on a student whether that student wants to write a poem or a short story or a novel. So how you kind of explore the dictionary, there are components, how you connect them together in a meaningful way. To write a
Correct.
story or poem, you need to understand the grammar, right? How to
Right.
spell things, how to put things in
Yeah.
relation to each other, and only then it will create a meaningful sentence. So it's the same thing. You can work with Rhinoceros is a great software. Similarly, the Grasshopper works on Rhino platform, and a lot of people have explored so many plugins for Grasshopper.
Hmm.
So depending on to if you want to study the sun path and you want to design the facade, you want to orient the facade in a most optimized manner. So there are tools to do that. There are tools to kind of work out a shortest path to go on top of the hill on a contoured site. There are plugins to do calculate which are the path the runoff the water will flow down the land.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
you can explore what your interests are.
Correct. Wonderful. Okay, the other question was how do you see the scope of evolving parametric design, particularly in India, in comparison to other countries?
See, the way architecture and interior design profession is practiced in India, personally, I don't find it most ideal
Hmm.
because the architect and interior designer is kept at the pivot point where they need to kind of, in a lot of time, they have to do the work of the vendors. Unfortunately, people are not doing their work in most responsible way.
Correct.
Abroad, what happens is XYZ agency you hire, you can rely on them to do that portion of work.
Hmm.
So I should
Hmm.
not be worrying about where the electrical wires are going. I just need to tell where I want the switchboard, for example. So a lot of those kind of shortcomings are there in India. Unless these kind of expertized um, vendors are not there, I would
Hmm.
see the parametric design practice suffering currently. Like for example, if I design a pavilion which has a kind of very faceted canopy, I can also design and so there are two ways one can do it. If I have expertise, then I can figure out the details up to the nut and bolt, which not everyone may not have. Then you have to
Hmm.
rely on an engineering
Hmm.
company who can
Correct.
actually do the engineering work for you. For example, the way work happens at the Aadi's office and other similar architects,
Hmm.
they have
Hmm.
huge expertise on these kind of vendors. Those people would work out each and every joinery, the panel size. They are expert also in these kind of parametric software. So unless we have support of these kind of agencies, one has to learn everything on their own and achieve the goals.
Correct. So here it becomes in India. See, abroad, even people are very responsible for this. Even if they are doing the smallest work, they feel it their own duty and they will do it. They are very responsible. Whereas in India, we have to be responsible for each and everything, entire team. So it gets a little longer and tense situation, or the uh, like long procedure, I would say, in India.
Right. Right.
Yeah. The next question was that is it possible to combine the two designs, say contemporary and the parametric design?
The parametric design is contemporary art itself. I don't
Hmm.
differ both. See,
Hmm.
art changes with time. Art changes with technology. So
Right.
when there was printing available, people kind of work with linographs and lithographs and serigraphs, etc. So if the technology is allowing certain things now, the art will adopt those technology and create something. So I would say parametric art is contemporary art. It's
Both are
part.
same. Part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very insightful session, and I know it was very short, but we have to end the session here. So thank you so much for being on board with us, and we really enjoyed the session, and we gained a lot of knowledge. Beautiful work we could see of yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting.